Okay, I think we should go ahead and get started. So, for all of you who are joining me live this afternoon, welcome. And for those of you who are going to watch this live virtual tour after the fact, welcome to you as well. So, over the course of the last, I guess it's 4.5 years I've been doing this, I have given about 80 different virtual tours like this one. Now, most of those take place in the spring and the summer and the fall, and that's because it's much easier to move around Chicago with my video camera in hand during those seasons, of course. But looking back over the course of all of these 80 virtual tours that we've done together, several of them have actually taken place in the winter with significant amounts of snow on the ground. So since we are all seemingly in the thick of winter, Chicago specifically here, and these horrible temperatures, I was going to show you on my phone. Here we are. Here is Chicago currently, 1 degree. 1 degree feels like 18. So since we're in the thick of this Chicago winter, let's visit some of Chicago's rather cold and snowy movie locations. So again, if you're new here, welcome. I'm Kelly. I run Chicago Movie Tours. My goal is pretty simple. It is that right there, to help you discover Chicago and the surrounding area of this city through film. So if you're interested in more events like this one that delve into Chicago and movies, check out chicagomovietours.com or follow along on social media at Shy Movie Tours. All right, so as we do with these virtual tours, let's go ahead and situate ourselves in relationship to downtown Chicago, or that loop area or the neighborhood. So you can see the red pin there indicating Chicago downtown. We are going to hit 5 locations today on our virtual tour, and we are going to start actually quite north of Chicago in Woodstock, Illinois. So we are going to head together about 60 miles northwest of the city. And this city or town, I guess it's a city, it is most well known for the location where the movie Groundhog Day was filmed. So if it's been a little while since you've seen Groundhog Day, let me recap it for you just really quickly. So we're looking at a 1993 American film comedy where we have this very cynical weatherman, right, played by Bill Murray, who finds himself stuck in a time loop over and over. And he ultimately is going to relive the same day, February the 2nd, Groundhog Day, over and over again. And he is going to be forced to relive this day over and over until he learns to reevaluate his priorities and get himself straight, right? So that's kind of the premise of this movie. Now, this movie takes place on Groundhog Day, obviously, in the small town of Puxatawny, Pennsylvania. So on the right-hand side, right underneath me, you can see Bill Murray's character there and the rest of his crew for the weather reports. You have Andy McDowell, and you also have Chris Elliott, who's the one holding the camera. So these 3 are going to cover the annual Groundhog Day celebration in Puxatawny, Pennsylvania. And in short, Bill Murray's character, Phil, the weatherman, does not want to be here.
This is pitiful. 1,000 people freezing their butts off waiting to worship a rat.
Waiting to worship a rat, right? So for this character, Groundhog Day would be the absolute worst day to spend over and over and over. Now, in the film, Woodstock, Illinois serves as Puxatawny, Pennsylvania. So let's turn to some footage of mine that I took when I visited Woodstock for the first time. So here we are on the left-hand side. We have a pretty snowy celebration happening at Woodstock Square. You can see all that snow on the ground there. Lots of snow. And if you look here, you can see the gazebo kind of in the background. And you can hear some singing going on as well. But you can see the gazebo a little bit past those trees. And then on the right-hand side, that screenshot from the film, you can also see that same gazebo in the back there as well. So from there, we have a man carving a groundhog out of a piece of wood. We have Ned's Corner, which is marked very nicely. We'll come back to that in a moment. And we have this large mural that is dedicated to the movie Groundhog Day right there in the square. So here, I'll give you a better shot of that mural so you can see it all the way kind of running down the path there. So Groundhog Day is a big deal in Woodstock, Illinois. In fact, they are just about to celebrate Groundhog Days. If you look at the website here, I've got a screenshot of it. It's going to take place from January 30th to February the 2nd of this year. And if you scroll down oops, excuse me, let me try that one more time. If you scroll down a little bit, you can see all the different events that they have on their schedule. The Groundhog Paint-Along, the Movie Memorabilia Open House. There's a cocktail party in honor of the Groundhog. There's a 5K. All the way down to the bottom right, you should also see February the 1st, a walking tour of the filming sites. So that's kind of what we're interested in obviously with Chicago Movie Tours here. So free walking tours they give every year for Groundhog's Day in Woodstock. So what you're looking at here is a shot that I took last year, I believe, where you have hundreds of people gathered around in front of a guide who's standing up there a little bit closer to the building. But that's a tour guide in front of the Woodstock Opera House. And we're going to see more of this opera house in just a second. But the tours, again, for free, are often led by people who were actually there during the production of the film in 1992. And occasionally you have actors from the movie who are going to be there to greet you as well. And if you do not want to travel to Woodstock, that's 60 miles, you can just head to Navy Pier here in Chicago for the second annual Harold Ramis Day. So this is the website for Harry Carey's restaurant group, which is hosting the event. So if we click here and move this up a little bit, you'll see that the day is celebrating the life of Harold Ramis, who is the one who co-wrote and directed Groundhog Day, of course. So there he is on the left. He died in 2014, and this day really celebrates him in conjunction with the movie. You can also see there at the center of your screen some of the participating cast members who are going to be there to greet you as well. And if you scroll your eyes down to that video, which I've kind of cut off at the bottom, you can also see that last year Bill Murray showed up kind of secretively. No one was very sure if he was going to do so, but he did. So perhaps he will again this year as well. All right, let me give you a few more pictures that I took from a very cold and snowy visit here at Woodstock Square. So on the left-hand side of the screen, there is the entrance to Woodstock Square. And on the right-hand side, that gazebo that we were looking at in the video just a moment ago. This was probably about 8 degrees out when I was shooting all of this, but you can see how many people still show up, obviously, for this. Now, Groundhog Day was filmed here in March of 1992, so that's not technically the dead of winter, but still mostly in the 20s around here, and there was snow on the ground in certain locations when they were filming. So let's zoom in on that picture a little bit closer of the gazebo. If you can see where my little yellow arrow is pointing, there's a man up there holding an actual groundhog. And I'll give you a little shot of me a little bit closer to the groundhog. So you can take your picture with the real groundhog there if you want to wait in line and do that. Or you can take your picture with a fake groundhog, as I've done here as well. So lots of events that just run throughout basically 3 or 4 days in Woodstock. Now, at the left, earlier, you saw this tour group lining up outside the Woodstock Opera House over there. And on the right, there's the same building, the Opera House, with virtually no one around it. And by the way, since we're talking Chicago and movies, you can also see this Opera House in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. So if you took my virtual tour on that film back in November, we saw that a little bit as well. But let's go back to Groundhog Day and let's see the Opera House as it functions in the film. And here it functions in Groundhog Day as the site of the Pennsylvanian Hotel. All right, well, we'll pause it there. But you have Bill Murray's character standing at the top of this hotel. He's going to dive off the top because he has grown so depressed with his time loop situation that we mentioned earlier that he tries to end his life multiple times around this part of the film. He throws the toaster in the bathwater while he's in it. He drives off a cliff, and here he's throwing himself off the top of this opera house. And of course, being the story that we're dealing with, his character is going to wake up the next morning and do it all again. Okay, so moving on, the Woodstock gazebo is also marked to indicate the very first snowfall dance that you have between Bill Murray's character and Andie MacDowell's character. So let's go to that really quickly with a little bit of festive music behind it, I think. So there's the marker, the first snowfall dance from Groundhog Day, the movie in 1992. And there's a shot from the film itself where they're actually shooting the dance inside the gazebo. And maybe you can make out Bill Murray and Andie MacDowell sort of in the center of that shot. Also marked is Ned's Corner, which we saw just briefly a moment ago. But let's look at that section of the film real quick.
Phil? Hey, Phil? Phil? Phil Connors? Phil Connors, I thought that was you.
Hi, how you doing? Thanks for watching.
Hey. Now, don't you tell me you don't remember me, because I sure as heck fire remember you.
All right, so you can see it behind the two of them, kind of back there where the guy in the blue is coming around the corner. So that's where that's marked, actually at the Woodstock Square. And you can also see that after this conversation, which happens, of course, every day, Phil steps off the curb, or Bill Murray's character steps off the curb into a massive puddle. So if you look on the left-hand side of your screen, that incident from the film is also marked in Woodstock with a plaque that says Bill Murray stepped here from the movie Groundhog Day. So here it is in the film.
Take care.
Watch out for that first step. It's a doozy.
All right, so our final stop in Woodstock is the Cherry Street Inn Bed and Breakfast, which you can see on the left-hand side of your screen. That's where Bill Murray's character stays for the majority of the film. And our featured screenshot for today and its virtual tour is one of the last shots of the film. It's the one that's right below me here, where you have Phil and Rita outside the bed and breakfast, kissing right outside the front door. And inside the bed and breakfast, if you go on one of these tours, you can find all sorts of memorabilia, presumably from the film. I'm not sure if that clock is actually the one that wakes him up every morning playing Sonny and Cher's I Got You, Babe. But you can also see the record to the left of the clock there. There's a groundhog sitting on top of a mug. So all sorts of little bits of memorabilia that you can see inside the bed and breakfast at Woodstock. All right, so we've made our way from Chicago to Woodstock, so let us move back into the city here, and we're going to the northern suburbs, to Des Plaines. And that is where The Breakfast Club was filmed. So this is a movie from 1985. It follows these 5 high school students from very different social groups, and they're basically forced to spend a Saturday together in detention. So this movie, directed by John Hughes, I've done several virtual tours on him specifically. This one, again, is filmed in Des Plaines, Illinois, primarily inside one building, which is Maine North High School, or at least at the time it was Maine North High School, which I visited on a really cold day. The snow was just starting to melt from this area. So here we are right outside the front of the school where they filmed The Breakfast Club. And John Hughes agreed to make this movie for $1 million. That's all he was going to get. And because of such a small budget, this is the location he chose. A single location that's going to make it much more cost-friendly. So the filming here outside Maine North High School began March of 1984. Took about 32 days to shoot The Breakfast Club. And this building here that you're walking around cost the studio about $25,000 a month to film here, which is about $70,000 today. Not terribly bad, actually, as far as Hollywood is concerned. And we're coming up on what this building actually functions as now. We have 2 signs out here indicating that. You can see on the left the Suburban North Regional Office Facility for the State of Illinois Central Management Services, and the sign on the right, the Illinois State Police District Chicago Headquarters. So you go in here, it's a lot of police offices and also the lottery offices. So if you win big at the lottery here in Chicago, you can go here and claim your money. Unfortunately, unannounced visitors are not allowed in this building anymore. So I do not have interior shots other than a couple of photographs that someone sent me who was able to go in there before they stopped allowing folks to join. But that's going to be a different virtual tour than the one today. So as we're coming closer to the building here, you'll recognize the opening of the film as well as the closing of the film, perhaps. And I'll give you a screenshot right here on the bottom left-hand side of your screen from the Breakfast Club, which has Shermer High School that has been tacked on the side or the top of the building there. So, most memorable, though, probably from the Breakfast Club is the end of the film and one of the most iconic freeze frames from the 1980s. So here, to refresh your memory.
Sincerely yours, The Breakfast Club.
All right, so hopefully you remember that shot, right? Now, there is a lot of controversy online about the filming locations of that particular scene of the film, the very end of the movie. There are all sorts of different schools that have been mentioned and argued about as to where this was actually filmed, but I want to set the record straight here at Chicago Movie Tours because it is actually here at Maine North High School, which we were just touring around. And we find that in an article, I believe it's the Chicago Tribune, where the DP or the director of photography tells us point blank in the article, if you look at the highlighted print, that field was at the now defunct Maine North High School in Des Plaines, where the rest of the film was shot. And if you look in the last 4 lines there, he continues, the field shot, we did it behind the same school where we were shooting. We never left the premises during production. It was faster that way. And also keep in mind the budget that John Hughes had to work with. So it makes sense then that they're going to actually film this behind the school, which this football field no longer there because now, again, police and lottery are making up that building. But this is, again, one of the most iconic images of the 1980s, which is why it's pretty precious to many in Generation X. So over here on the right-hand side of your screen, this is just a little blurb from social media, or someone is arguing about the definitive high school movies by generation. Generation X, The Breakfast Club, Millennials, Mean Girls, and Gen Z High School Musical. So perhaps if you're one of those in Gen X, as I am, you might agree with that. Maybe you'd come up with something different. All right, so let us head to our third stop. We have gone from Chicago to Woodstock, from Woodstock to Des Plaines. Let us move back into the city a bit more, and we're going to head to Lincoln Park and talk about a 1988 American slasher horror film called Child's Play. This is a movie that's directed by Tom Holland. It is filmed very heavily in Chicago. I think there are 9 or 10 different locations that they use around the city here. Now, this was filmed in Chicago in the winter of 1988. So keep that date in mind, the winter of 1988. And the plot of Child's Play, if it's been a while since you've seen it, or perhaps you have never seen it, you have a single mother, you can see there on the screen, whose name is Karen. She purchases a doll for her son and his birthday. There's her son Andy there. She does not realize, however, but that this doll has been inhabited by the soul of a serial killer who is in the bottom left-hand side of your screen. So when this doll ultimately is going to come to life, chaos and a lot of tragedy are going to ensue.
A good guy! I knew it! I knew you'd get me one!
Show me how he works, okay?
Hi, I'm Andy. What's your name? Hi, I'm Chucky, and I'm your friend to the end. Heidi-ho.
Ah, still creepy. All right, so this is not technically cold weather that we're about to deal with here with my video footage, but my video footage is related to Child's Play, was taken when it was pretty cool outside, and we're going to explore some cold Chicago locations as we talk about Child's Play. All right, so let's take our little virtual tour around Lincoln Park and one specific building, and then we'll get into the coldness of this film. So Child's Play was filmed outside and inside the building that is straight ahead. So let's get out from under this scaffolding And that building on the corner of Pine Grove and Diversey right here, that's the building we're looking at. It's called the Brewster Building. It was built in 1896. Quite an interesting building and a bit creepy looking. So it does quite well for Child's Play, this horror film, right? But keep your eye on that rounded corner that we're focusing on. And let's see how the exterior is used in this movie. So the clip I'm going to show you really quickly, you have a friend who is babysitting Andy, who has just received Chucky as a gift. And she's going to notice some strange things happening in the apartment after Andy has gone to bed. So there is quite a bit of violence here, just to warn you, she's going to fly out of this window. Sorry about that. The violence as well as it not working properly. So look here, we're left with this shot of the offending window at the top floor of the Brewster Building there. All right, now I have another program that discusses this scene in way more detail, including some behind the scenes filming with regard to the Brewster Building. But for now, think about the date of filming, right? It was the winter of 1988, and more specifically, it was January to March of 1988. And in my time researching all of these different movies that have filmed here in Chicago, this is one of the coldest movie shoots in the city that I can find. So let's delve into that a little bit since we're talking about these Chicago movies in winter. So if you look here at this article from the LA Times of 1988, this is happening as this article is written as they're filming the movie. If you look at the highlighted section, it says Child's Play, which has 8 outdoor locations this month in Chicago, where it has been as cold as 20 below with a wind chill factor of 50 below. But at least it hasn't snowed yet, someone in the cast said. So how did they do this? Because if you've seen Child's Play, there is a heck of a lot of scenes that take place outside in this film. So scrolling a little bit further down the article, we can actually see how they managed to do this and shoot and keep it within the time frame they were allotted. So here it tells us that cast and crew are surviving the Windy City with huge portable space heaters, hand and foot warmers, and ski masks. There have also been large rooms rented nearby as warming centers, and station wagons are lined up outside the Brewster Building, for example, with heaters going since trailers cannot be parked close to the set. So you have a lot of extra things put into play where you're not going to endanger the cast and the crew. Although there is a story about Chris Sarandon, who plays a cop in the film. You can see him there kind of peering behind a wall. But there are some stories that talk about him and his vocal cords that reportedly froze during one of these sub-zero exterior shoots. So I looked this up because I was thinking, really, can your vocal cords actually freeze, or is this just some sort of Hollywood hyperbole? But I did find some articles from some medical professionals that said, quote, yelling and screaming in cold weather, yes, can injure a person's voice box. Warmth and moisture have to be there to offset the damage. So hopefully he got into one of those station wagons or warming centers relatively quickly. And if you start looking through the film at all the exterior shots in Child's Play, watch them, because as you're going to see, like with the little arrow that I have pointing to these 3 scenes, the actor's breath is visible in every single one of these shots, just indicating to you how cold it was. Not computer generated, actually cold breath, right? And then finally with Child's Play, this is an article from the Chicago Tribune that's entitled Coping with the Cold. It was such a brutal exterior shoot that the entire cast was given this Tribune article on how to treat frostbite. So I can imagine most of these people coming from Los Angeles just terrified of all of this for that 3-month shoot that they were here in Chicago. All right, so we've gone from Chicago to Woodstock, Woodstock to Des Plaines, Des Plaines to Lincoln Park. Let's keep making our way down a bit south and west. We're going to head to Maywood, Illinois, our fourth spot, and talk briefly about the 2021 biopic about Fred Hampton. Fred Hampton was the chairman of the Illinois chapter of the Black Panther Party. So this movie, Judas and the Black Messiah, follows Hampton's work and his assassination by the FBI. So this movie is a bit unique on our list that we are discussing today because it is filmed in Cleveland. Primarily, it's also filmed at the Ohio State Penitentiary in Mansfield, Ohio, which you might recognize from this photo from my husband, who did a lovely job when he visited this. This is the Ohio State Penitentiary that is also featured very heavily in the Shawshank Redemption, so you might recognize it from that as well. But going back to Judas and the Black Messiah, so this movie, the most recent on our list, I suppose, it won 2 Oscars, one for Daniel Kaluuya. You can see him on the far left-hand side of your screen with his arm raised. He won for Best Supporting Actor. He plays Hampton. And then the movie also won Best Song that year, I believe. Now, again, it's unique because none of it is filmed here. But much of this movie, as well as, of course, Fred Hampton's life, is based heavily in Chicago. So let's talk a little bit about Fred Hampton, then I'm going to take you with my virtual camera to a spot that was near and dear to him. So he's from Maywood, Illinois. Again, the next stop on our virtual tour today. And as a youth, primarily as a teenager, he wanted to mobilize his community against injustice. And he did that in several ways. For example, he led the NAACP Youth Council. He pushed for better academic services in the town of Maywood, and he also fought for recreational activities for the Black youth of Maywood. And most famously, perhaps, Hampton, as well as the rest of the Black Panthers, created the free breakfast program in 1969. So you can see these kids here with one of the adults. The Black Panthers served full meals to about 20,000 school-age kids in 19 cities across this country. And school officials noticed immediately an improvement in the concentration and the test scores and the learning of these kids after they had a full breakfast provided by Hampton and the rest of his group. So let's walk through Maywood, Illinois here and learn what else Hampton advocated for in his relatively short life. So we're back to some cold and snow here. So we are headed toward a sign which will tell us where we currently are in Maywood. You can see on the sign, Village of Maywood, Fred Hampton Family Aquatic Center. It doesn't look very aquatic right now, but the story goes that Hampton noticed that there was no swimming pool for Black teenagers in Maywood during the really hot summers here in Chicago, so he began a campaign for a public pool and recreational center in Maywood. Ultimately, through a lot of organized public rallies, it happened. Here's a bust of Fred Hampton on the path that leads to the pool right behind him. A bust of him, and then there's a little bit more of a plaque that tells you more about him and the sculptor who created that. So again, ultimately through a lot of organized public rallies, his dream came true. Unfortunately, he would not live long enough to see the ribbon cutting of the Fred Hampton pool that we're headed toward right now. But today, this is Maywood's Fred Hampton Family Aquatic Center, where there is obviously a pool, which you can see the sign indicating that. There are water slides, picnic tables, and just unrestricted family pool time that he helped to create. So another little plaque dedicated to him there. All right, so let us finally make our way from Maywood to LaGrange, not very far down the road, and we're going to talk briefly about a 1995 romantic comedy called While You Were Sleeping, directed by Jon Turteltaub. Now, if you've been with me on my While You Were Sleeping virtual tours, I do this every year around Christmas Eve or so. So some of this you might have seen relatively recently if you join me on that. If not, a quick summary for you. The main characters of While You Were Sleeping, we have Sandra Bullock right in the middle of your screen. You have Peter Gallagher on the far right and Bill Pullman on the far left. So the summary of this movie is that you have Sandra Bullock's character is this hopeless romantic who works as a token collector for the Chicago Transit Authority. She is going to be mistaken for the fiance of a coma patient, played by Peter Gallagher, and his eyebrows on the far right-hand side of your screen. And Sandra Bullock's character has no family, and the coma patient's family, including his brother Peter, Bill Pullman on the left, is going to welcome her into their family. So this movie films pretty heavily in Chicago from October to December of 1994, including this house in LaGrange, where we currently are. Right there on the left, we are headed toward the house that's lit up all lovely for Christmas. And let me show you also a clip from the film in the bottom right-hand corner where we see Sandra Bullock's character encountering this house for the very first time. So also decorated for Christmas, of course, in the film itself. And you might think that snow would happen during the filming of While You're Sleeping, because they are filming between October and December here, but no, there was none. So if you check out this article on the far left-hand side, it tells us that to film a holiday scene at a Christmas decorated house in LaGrange, they lacked crucial snow. So a huge trailer of ice blocks, I should say, was brought in. The crew turned it into snow and the scene was shot. So I've talked with several people who lived in LaGrange and in the neighborhood when they were shooting this film, and they remember all that fake snow being brought in a relatively warm fall there. Now, unlike many films that go and use actual houses on location, who use actual houses, mostly the exterior of houses, I should say. This house, the interior was used as well in the film itself. So here we have some images of the house from Realtor.com the last time it was on the market, and quite a bit of snow on the ground there. But the downstairs portion of the house is pretty evident in the film. So if you look on the right-hand side, you see the foyer-way or the entryway, the staircase, and that wallpaper that's lining the wall leading up to the stairs. You can definitely see that in the film when Sandra Bullock's character is introduced to Jack, or Bill Pullman's character, the first time.
Good morning.
Oh, you scared me.
Sorry.
Good morning, Jack.
I guess I don't remember meeting you.
So lovely that they have kept the same wallpaper there in the last 10 years, I think, is when the house was on the market. So here are a couple of other pictures. So on the left-hand side of your screen, there's the living room area. So check out the fireplace where you have that lovely oak mantle, the wrought iron casing in front of it, or the cover in front of it, and then also that green tile. You can see that when Sandra Bullock's character is invited over to Christmas to open presents.
Who the hell is Uncle Al?
Uncle Al, you know, Uncle Al from Buffalo.
To Lucy from Santa.
Remember Al? He was here the first time. 7 bow ties, I bet. Oh, you should.
All right, so hopefully you can see that behind Sandra Bullock there as she's gazing lovely into this the family's eyes. So this snowy Chicago-based movie actually made it to Jeopardy in 2004, and I think Todd sent this to me. Todd, if you're out there still. But the question reads, in While You Were Sleeping, Bill Pullman doubts, and should, that this actress is who she seems. So we have Sandra Bullock, of course, the answer to that. Now, in February, we are going to continue looking at cold locations in Chicago, as you can see here with my video footage of the University of Chicago, as we talk about food and how it is used in When Harry Met Sally. And then also in February, we are going to head to the Burr Oak Cemetery in Alsip, Illinois, and talk a little bit about Cooley High and some of the actors who are related to that film. But for now, a quick recap of today's Chicago movie locations in winter. So we headed from Chicago to Woodstock, where we talked about Groundhog Day. And I would encourage, if you're in the area and want something to do on a cold day, go check out Woodstock and all of the festivities there. Then we made our way to Des Plaines, went a little bit, circled the building that is used in the Breakfast Club. Then we made our way to Lincoln Park, saw the Brewster building that is featured in Child's Play, talked a little bit about Judas and the Black Messiah. Even though it's not filmed here, we do have that connection to Maywood and Fred Hampton, of course. And then just down the road from Maywood, we have LaGrange, Illinois, where the movie While You're Sleeping filmed there. All right, so there you have it. Snow on Set, Chicago movies in winter. I will put the other dates on the screen for you really quickly. So if you want to jot those down and check out more snowy related, film related events, we have Black Movie History in Chicago, Cinematic Milestones and Sacred Grounds. That's going to be Thursday, February the 6th. That's where we'll talk about Cooley High, and that'll be at 7 p.m. That's a virtual program. Both of these are going to be virtual and free to all. So there's that coming up. And then the other one with Harry Met Sally, that will be happening Tuesday, February the 11th at 1 p.m. So same time, right back here on YouTube. All right. So thank you very much for joining me for our discussion today and our virtual tour. I'm going to turn over here to the comments, see if there are any questions or comments that you might have had about today's Snow on Set. Hi,